This little camera right here reminded me of something I forgot for a while. How free filmmaking feels when the barrier to create is low. This is the DJI Osmo Action 6. Already popular on YouTube, I know, but I want to talk about it, and not as a spec sheet review, but from a filmmaker's perspective. How it feels to use and why it made me want to shoot again. If you're new here, my name is Daniel Scotch. I'm a DP and filmmaker, and this video is a bit of a YouTube side quest. No pressure, no hype. Just testing gear and seeing what actually works in real life. So to me, action cams have a place. I have more bigger cameras and things like that, but action cams are really small, light and unintimidating, and that matters more than people think. Because I can take this camera to places where I don't want to look professional, but I do want to have professional looking images. Let's say in public spaces or abroad, large cameras often feel too official, too pro-ish, and with a phone or an action cam, you usually don't get questioned. And that freedom changes how you shoot. Bigger is not always better. Why the Osmo Action 6? It's been out for a month, I think, and I've been playing around with it for, I think, 2 weeks, but a few things that stand out right away. You get dual screens, so in the front and in the back you have a screen. And depending on what you shoot, it's super handy. Let's say I want to shoot things happening or a scenery or my kids playing around. I can just look at the back of the screen. But when I have to, let's say I want to vlog, I can see myself on the front screen and be sure my framing is okay, you know? Also, internal storage. That's gold, because yes, you can put your own micro SD in these units, but I can think of so many instances where I just forgot my micro SD cards and I was like, oh man, but now I have internal storage, and in most cases that's enough for me, so that's a big plus. Also, magnetic mounting. Right out of the box, you can use it and just stick it on something metal, on your car, on anything, without even rigging it out. And this is a big one. A very fast and responsive workflow, from grabbing the camera to recording in about 2 seconds. That speed alone already changes your mindset. I purchased the DJI Action 6 also with a macro lens, and it really set this camera apart, because when you move close to your subject, you start to see something action cams usually don't give you: a sense of background separation. And I know it's not like a cinema depth of field, but for an action cam, it's generally quite unique. And to be honest, I think if you're new with all this, there is a bit of a learning curve with a macro lens. Distance and framing matter. If you want to be sure you're in focus, you have to check out the settings on the wheel, because one setting is macro, it's a sign of a flower. The other setting is a human subject, and that's more like when you're vlogging, and the other setting has a picture of mountains, and that's like using the action cam like you normally would, with everything in the frame being sharp and being in focus. So yeah, there is a learning curve with it, but I think once it clicks, it adds a creative option most action cams simply don't have. And also, when you attach the macro lens, the aperture goes down to 2.0. That means even more light intake. And combined with close focus, you get even more background separation. What I also really like is the aperture control on this camera. The lens goes from 2.6 up to f4, which gives you extra control over your depth of field and sharpness. Stopping down to a f4 gives you a bit more depth and control. Opening up lets in more light and gives you a bit more of the background separation. This is especially useful when you don't have any ND filters with you. It gives you that extra flexibility in exposure without immediately pushing shutter or ISO. A quick reminder for people that are new in filming: for a natural looking motion blur, you want to follow the 180-degree shutter rule. At 25 frames per second, that means a shutter around 1/50th, and it's like double the frame rate, whatever the frame rate is. But if you want to use the 180-degree shutter rule, there are some challenges, because in bright daylight that can easily overexpose. So ND filters, it's like a must to reduce light, so the motion blur stays natural. If you don't have ND filters, having aperture control on the camera gives you that extra room to work with. Because the camera is light and durable, it's perfect for so many scenarios, for sports, for underwater shooting, for rigging it at places I normally wouldn't hang a bigger camera. Tight spaces, risky angles, and you can get creative with it without being afraid something is going to break, because it's built to last. It's built to take a heavy beating. For cinematic starting point, these are the settings I usually use. I use D-Log M in 10-bit color, 24 frames per second, shutter at 1/50th, auto ISO between 100 and 800 most of the time. I do have my EV exposure compensation at -0.3, noise reduction at -2, and detail and sharpness at -2. That gives me the most flexibility in post to add sharpness as I like. I generally shoot with auto exposure with ISO limited between 100 and 800 in most situations. That's simply to make things easy for myself. When I use this camera for more serious jobs where I want to have full control, I'll switch everything to manual. But honestly, that kind of defeats the purpose of an action cam like this, I think. This camera shines when you can move fast, react instantly, and focus on framing and moments instead of constantly checking settings. And people often ask if you can shoot cinematic footage with an action cam. My answer is always the same, because to me, cinematic images don't come from the camera at all. They come from storytelling, from framing, light, intent. Be creative. And this camera makes it easy to go outside and just try new things, try things that you wouldn't be doing with a heavier camera setup. And when the barrier is low, creativity flows. But some technical advice: always try to protect your highlights. That's just how film looks, and it's also how your eyes naturally work. What I really like is the framing flexibility. You can shoot in a way that works both for 16:9 and 9:16, so in vertical or horizontal content. In one shoot, multiple platforms, YouTube, Instagram stories, you're covered. This is the DJI Osmo Action 6. It doesn't replace my bigger cameras at all, but it did remind me why I started creating in the first place. Fast, simple, pressure-free filmmaking. So yeah, if you want to support the channel, like the video, share it, and subscribe. I'm your boy Daniel Scotch, signing out. See you the next time.